Okay, let's talk about Alexander the Great. And I think we need to forget the statues for a minute.
Right.
We're talking about a 20-year-old who, in just over a decade, conquered the biggest empire the ancient world had ever seen.
It's an incredible story. And the question isn't just what he did, but how on earth he pulled it off. The speed and the scale are just staggering.
So where do you even start with a story like that?
Well, you have to start before he even takes the throne.
Yeah.
He was born in 356 BCE in Pella, which was the capital of Macedon.
And he has these two incredibly powerful forces shaping him from day one.
Exactly. You got his father, King Philip II, who was a flat-out military genius. He completely modernized the army.
And then his mother, Queen Olympias.
Fiercely ambitious.
Yeah.
She was the one who was always telling him he was descended from Achilles, the Greek hero.
So you get this mix of practical military training from his dad and then this, mythic, almost divine sense of destiny from his mom.
It's a potent combination.
Yeah.
But ambition alone doesn't conquer the world. You need the brains to back it up.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Absolutely. This is what sets him apart. When Alexander was 13, his father makes this huge investment. He hires Aristotle.
The Aristotle. I mean, you can't get a better tutor.
Probably the greatest mind in the Greek world, to be his personal teacher.
And just imagine that curriculum. It's not just reading old stories.
I know, not at all. Aristotle taught him science, medicine, logic, politics. He gave him a deep respect for organized knowledge. It was really about learning how to think, how to categorize the world.
Which is so important later on, right, when you're running an empire.
It's everything. That training gave him a framework for administration. He wasn't just some warlord who couldn't read. He understood governance, logistics, all the boring stuff that actually makes an empire work.
And he loved the Greek classics, especially Homer's Iliad.
Oh, he was obsessed with it. He supposedly kept a copy under his pillow. It totally fueled that idea of himself as this great conquering hero.
What's wild to me is that his curiosity didn't stop when he left the classroom.
No, it went with him on campaign. While he's marching his army across Asia, he is actively funding a scientific project.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's telling his commanders to collect samples of rare plants and animals and send them back to Aristotle in Greece.
So he's not just looking for the enemy, he's mapping the natural world.
Exactly. But all that training gets put to the test very suddenly.
His father, King Philip, is assassinated, and just like that, at 20 years old, Alexander is on the throne.
And it is pure chaos waiting to happen.
Because everyone sees a young, untested kid, right?
All the rival groups, all the Greek city-states that Philip had dominated, they see this as their chance. They start rebelling immediately, thinking they can just shake off Macedonian rule.
But Alexander's response was, well, shockingly fast.
No hesitation. He moves his army south with lightning speed, and his target is the city of Thebes, which was leading the revolt.
This was a huge moment for him. He had to make a statement.
And he did. Crushing Thebes was brutal, but it sent a crystal clear message to the rest of Greece.
The message being, I am not weak.
Do not test me. And it worked. The other Greek city-states basically fell in line. They accepted him as their supreme commander.
And getting that stable home base was absolutely critical because his real plan, the big one, was about to start.
The invasion of the Persian Empire.
And you have to understand the scale here. In 334 BCE, he crosses into Asia with maybe 35,000 men.
And the Persian Empire, ruled by King Darius III, it's the superpower of the day. It spans 3 continents, it's fabulously wealthy, and its army just dwarfs his.
This was a huge gamble. High risk, high reward.
And that first big test comes at the Granicus River. This battle really defines his whole leadership style.
Because most generals would have played it safe.
Right, they'd use the river as a defensive barrier.
Yeah.
Alexander just plunged straight in. He personally led the cavalry charge across the river and almost got himself killed in the process.
That has to terrify the enemy commanders.
It did, but his army was also just better, tactically superior.
We should probably talk about the phalanx.
Yes, the Macedonian phalanx. It was their key innovation. You had this formation of soldiers with these incredibly long spears called the sarissa,
How long are we talking?
up to 20 feet long.
20 feet.
Yeah, so if you're charting a phalanx, you have to get through 5 rows of spear points before you even reach the first soldier. It's like a moving wall of spikes.
An impenetrable wall.
But the real genius was combining that with the cavalry. The phalanx holds the enemy in place, and then Alexander leads his heavy cavalry to smash into their flank. It was devastating.
And with that tactic, he just sweeps through Asia Minor, freeing all these Greek cities from Persian rule. his reputation starts to build.
Which sets the stage perfectly for one of the greatest bits of political theater in history.
The Gordian knot.
Exactly. He gets to the city of Gordium, and there's this ancient wagon with an impossibly complicated knot. The prophecy said whoever could untie it would rule all of Asia.
And people had been trying for generations.
For centuries.
Yeah.
And they all failed. So Alexander looks at this tangled mess.
And he realizes that trying to untie it is playing by the old rules.
Right. Instead, he just pulls out his sword and slices right through it. One clean stroke.
The meaning of that is just so powerful.
It's pure psychological warfare. He's showing everyone that he doesn't solve problems the old way. He finds direct, creative, even radical solutions. That story spread like wildfire and made people believe he really was destined for this.
And he would need that belief for his next big fight, the Battle of Issus. Darius III himself shows up with a massive army.
But Darius makes a huge mistake. He chooses a narrow coastal plain for the battle.
Which completely negates his advantage in numbers.
It's a bottleneck. Alexander uses his tactics brilliantly, but the really decisive moment was, well, it was personal.
He didn't just manage the battle from the back.
You know, he spots a weak point in the Persian line and leads a cavalry charge straight for King Darius's personal chariot.
Straight at the king.
Imagine that. And Darius, seeing Alexander rushing at him like a madman, panics. He turns his chariot around and flees the battlefield.
And when the army sees their king run away,
The entire army just collapses into confusion and breaks. It's over.
after the battle, he captures Darius's family.
But he treats them with kindness and respect, which was a very smart move. It showed the conquered people he wasn't some kind of barbarian.
Darius even tried to make a deal, right? Offered him a peace treaty.
A huge ransom, half the empire, but Alexander refused. He didn't want half. He wanted the whole thing.
So instead of chasing Darius, he makes a strategic turn and marches south.
Into Egypt. And this turns out to be a brilliant detour. The Egyptians hated Persian rule, so they welcome Alexander as a liberator.
They don't just see him as a conqueror.
They see him as a hero. Their priests actually declare him a god and crown him as the rightful pharaoh.
And while he's there, he founds a city.
The most famous one, Alexandria, right there on the coast. It was perfectly placed to become this huge center for trade and learning, you know, with this great library and the giant lighthouse.
But Darius is still out there, rebuilding his army for one last shot.
One final showdown. This happens at Gaugamela in 331 BCE.
And this time, Darius is ready. He picks a huge, wide-open plain.
The perfect place to use his superior numbers, his scythed chariots, and even war elephants, which the Greeks had never seen before.
So how does Alexander counter that? A frontal assault would be suicide.
He uses pure strategic genius.
Yeah.
He fakes a move to his right, which lures the best Persian cavalry away from the center of the line.
Creating a gap.
The second that gap opened, Alexander led his elite cavalry in a wedge formation and charged straight into it, right at Darius again.
And once again, Darius flees.
The last time. That was it. Gaugamela sealed the fate of the Persian Empire. Alexander is crowned king of Asia and captures the treasuries of Babylon.
At this point, any normal person would stop. You've won. You're the richest, most powerful man in the world.
But Alexander wasn't normal. The goal wasn't just victory. It was to reach the ends of the known world. So he pushes his army east.
Over the Hindu Kush Mountains into what's now Afghanistan and Central Asia.
It's just brutal terrain. But that curiosity Aristotle instilled in him was still driving him. He wanted to see what was out there.
His final major campaign takes him all the way to India in 326 BCE.
Where he fights King Porus, who has those terrifying war elephants. And Alexander wins, but it's a brutal, costly victory.
And his soldiers, they're just done.
Completely broken. Think about it. They've been on the march for over 8 years. They've covered 11,000 miles. They are exhausted.
So when Alexander says, let's keep going east,
For the first and only time, they refuse. It's a mutiny. His own veterans tell him they can't go any further.
And he actually listens.
He has to. He finally agrees to turn back. And it's on this journey home that we really start to see what his true legacy would be.
The Hellenistic age.
Right. He realized he couldn't rule this massive, diverse empire by force alone.
Yeah.
You had to have cultural integration. You had to blend cultures.
He practiced what he preached, too. He encouraged his soldiers to marry local women.
And he did it himself, marrying a Persian princess named Roxana. He even started wearing some Persian clothes and adopting some of their customs to show respect.
And this blending of Greek art, language, and philosophy with Eastern science and traditions, that creates the Hellenistic age.
It creates this unified world where ideas and goods can flow across continents, all because they now share a common Greek language for trade and government. That's arguably his biggest impact.
But just as he's consolidating all of this, tragedy strikes.
He gets back to Babylon, he's planning his next campaigns, and he suddenly falls ill. A really high fever.
And he dies in June of 323 BCE. He was only 32.
Just 32 years old. And we still don't know why. Was it a disease like malaria or typhoid? Was he poisoned by his rivals? It's one of history's great mysteries.
And the most critical part is that he died without naming a successor.
The story goes that on his deathbed, they asked who should get the empire. And he just whispered, "To the strongest."
Which is basically a recipe for disaster.
It's a total disaster. His massive empire, which was held together by his personal genius, just instantly gets torn apart by his generals fighting for control.
So in the end, he never lost a battle, but he couldn't secure his own legacy.
His military achievements reshaped the world, spreading Greek culture everywhere. But his failure was in statecraft. He didn't build an institution that could outlast him.
It's just an incredible story of how one brilliant, ambitious person can change the course of history in such a short time. But it also shows that the limits of conquest aren't always set by your enemy. Sometimes they're set by exhaustion and by time itself.
The perfect summary.
Good luck with your studies.